Happy Pride Month, everyone, and welcome to another episode of MALN Opinion Plus, a monthly series airing every first Friday. This is a space for our opinions where we talk about current events and questions the Latino community is curious about. Today we are joined by artist Noah Greeny, an artist and illustrator whose work comes to Boston from Atlanta, Georgia. Noah's work explores gender, trauma, resilience, and the future of queer identity, with aims to celebrate trans joy, empower trans youth, and uplift their community. Welcome, Noah. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Diego, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I guess we can just get started off. Do you want to give our audience an introduction into your current project, Protect Trans Dreams, which is currently on display at the Boston Children's Museum?
I would love to. Yeah, so for the past 3 years, I've been working on this exhibition titled Protect Trans Dreams for the Boston Children's Museum, and it is currently up. Please go see it. I have a little flyer. It is a collection of 7 life-size acrylic portraits that I painted of local trans kids, local to New England, and alongside my original watercolor illustrations from the children's book, It Feels Good to Be Yourself, written by Teresa Thorne, illustrated by me. And yeah, this show means so much to me. I can't believe it's finally happening. And it's up until July 24th. And I would love for folks to go see it.
So I feel like it's so often hard to get proper representation for trans people, especially that comes from trans people themselves. What did it feel like for you when you were finally able to see this work finished and on display for others to see?
Yeah. I created this show because I came out as trans at a young age. I'm a non-binary trans man, and I came out as a trans boy when I was 13. And for me, coming out as an adolescent was really isolating, and I wanted the kids in my community. I wanted trans kids um, in I wanted the trans kids in my life to feel celebrated and affirmed, and connected to each other. And not only that, but also connected to the larger trans community, and to have examples of trans adults who are thriving. Because that's something I didn't get as a child. And it makes it really hard to imagine a future for yourself when you don't have examples of adults who look like you and share um, who share your lived experience with gender. And so it was really incredible to work with these kids. I've been conceptualizing the project for 3 years, and I've been in touch with these kids and these families for about 1 year. So just over the course of that year, it's been really incredible to talk to them and get to know them and see them grow. And seeing them all at the museum celebrating together with their families was just so beautiful. It really brought me to tears.
What were their reactions like when they first saw their portraits?
Yeah. So because of the pandemic, I met with this group of kids and families over Zoom for about a year, and I had not met them in person until the show actually opened on April 14th. And seeing these kids react to their portraits was so beautiful. So the portraits, I guess I should give context. The premise of the show is I wanted trans kids to take up space in an institution that historically has not included them. And with the goal of taking up space, I made the portraits life size. They're they're really big, and I asked the kids how they wanted to be seen and how they wanted me to paint them. And I asked them to describe a dream to me, whether that's a dream that they have for their future or whether that's a hope that they have for the world, um, or something they want to change, or even just something that brings them joy. I asked each of them to pick a dream that they wanted me to paint, and I asked them how they wanted me to paint them in it. And so the portraits are what they asked me to paint. And that's why some of them are pretty silly because these are kids, um, with the youngest being 6 years old and the oldest being 13. um, like some of them asked me to paint them hugging a baby coyote in a field of sunflowers. And some of them asked me for more serious portrayals, like a painting that focuses on um, ending pollution or a personal goal that they have for their lives or for a career. Um, so these paintings are really about them and so tailored to them that just seeing them react to them in person was really beautiful.
I do think that is such a beautiful thing, like helping these children see themselves and see their dreams like manifested on paper, like or on canvas. That's very cool, and very wholesome in a way. I also think it's so cool because I feel that popular media and a lot of media around trans people often focuses on the trauma that trans people and people in the LGBTQ community face. And do you feel that it's really important to focus on the dreams of trans youth because of this?
Yes, yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, and that really impacted me growing up. I had very few examples of trans people, but the examples I did have, the stories um, that I found of trans people in the media all hinged around trauma. And because of that, I, um, as a kid coming to the realization that you're trans in a world where being trans is equivalent to trauma and pain and hardship, um, that that's really hard. Like, and if I had had examples of trans joy um, growing up, it would have been so much easier for me um, to just to just embrace myself and come out sooner and be unafraid. And yeah, and I also, I'm 25. I came out 12 years ago. And I grew up in Georgia. And so my experience coming out was very different than the experiences that these kids are having today. Um, both in the fact that trans kids have become hyper visible and hyper politicized. And for me, it was more of an experience of being invisible. Nobody around me knew what the word trans meant. Um, but for the kids I've been working with, um, they feel this sort of hypervigilance. They know um, that their identities are in the news and being debated and being attacked by politicians across the country, and they sort of have this sense of being targeted. Um, and I think given that context, it's even more important to balance that out with joy and dreams and possibility, and just create a space where trans kids are celebrated for being kids, and for having wild and crazy dreams, and having so much potential to shape the future, and experiencing joy.
Yeah, I think that's something I see a lot, that media often portrays these kids as not what they are. And I think at the end of the day, like, we should want children to be happy and be able to express themselves. And it's scary sometimes to see how many people are just against that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess would you mind sharing like a little, sorry. Do you have anything that you're working on right now that's going to be coming out in the future that you'd want to talk about?
Yeah. And so I also have to thank, just like my friends and community and the public support I've received for this project. This project, Protect Trans Dreams, has been mostly funded through crowdfunding. I created a fundraiser in order to be able to pull this off. And I really have to thank my community for showing up for me. And I proposed the idea of continuing the project in Atlanta, where I'm from and where I live now. And people have been really supportive and really encouraging. And I am hoping that I'll be able to continue Protect Trans Dreams here in Georgia with a new group of kids from here. Yeah, and I lived in Boston for 5 years. That was how I came to work with the Boston Children's Museum. And I moved back home over the course of the pandemic. But I'm really excited to continue this project and continue working with trans kids, to create art that makes them feel seen. Not just in Massachusetts, but also here in the South, where it's more needed.
Yeah, I think that's so exciting to think about how you can implement the art you've already created and create new art where you are now and where you grew up. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to mention, and anywhere we can follow your work online or?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I have to thank the Boston Children's Museum for providing me with this platform and for giving me the space to do whatever I want with. Essentially, they have been really, they have just been really open to whatever idea I proposed. And I have to thank them for hosting this and for helping me reach a wider audience. And places to follow me, I'm very chronically online. My Instagram is at Noah Greeny, my full name. I also have a website, noahgreeny.com, and I have a store, which is a fundraising platform for trans mutual aid. And it's shirtsforchange.com with the number 4.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure to include all of that in our web document as well. I just want to thank you again, Noah, for talking with us today and being our guest on MALN Opinion Plus.
Thank you so much, Diego. I really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. Join us again in July for another episode. And for more information about our discussion today, you can check out our web story on malatinonews.com. You can follow us on Twitter at MALatinoNews and Instagram at MA_Latino News. I'm Diego Villarroel with Massachusetts Latino News, Opinion Plus. See you next time.